where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of Wild Earth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the Wild Earth Camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer before the end of February 2021, and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
We stopped as the dusk was settling and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it.
Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth. This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine.
This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A very good morning to all our viewers and welcome to And Beyond Ngala, where we're currently just watching the sun slowly rise over the horizon and lifting away a slight misty veil that was over the Timbavati. You can see this morning slightly more cloudy, but it looks like it might open up. And there's almost no wind. It's been dead quiet. And we've just been sitting here for the past few minutes listening to hear if we might hear any animals call. I thought I heard one lion calling just now, but it sounded far, far off. And in the river, I can see some hippo tracks that looked like it walked all the way from the opposite bank down. And the main part of the stream of the water flowing is right up against the bank close to us. It was more than likely a wandering hippo from during a night. With all the water at the moment, I'm sure the hippos must move considerable distances during the dark. So, welcome to your live safari from the African bush. Now, even though we don't see any large animals moving across, the sunrise in the bushveld itself is so unbelievably beautiful, and you can hear what sounds like two kingfishers, two woodlands kingfishers calling on the opposite bank. Lots of other birds calling nearby in this area, and the sounds in the morning is probably one of my favorite things to do, is just sit, listen. That's where you kind of get an idea of what's going on where. At the moment, with the very lush vegetation, it's usually, this part of the river at least, is usually covered in shade early morning, and you can hear some of the birds like the francolins waking up. Now, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we've got Owen, and we've come down to the riverbed this morning in the hopes that we might pick up on any signs of large mammals. Elephant maybe, a herd, or cats. Lion would be good. I think this time of the year, leopard on Ngala can be very, very tricky. And we haven't had a lot of sightings of leopard. There's certainly been activity, and they've been all around this area, but we've had more sightings of lions. And one of the prides that we see in this area quite regularly, the dynamics are a little bit confusing at this point to everybody here, since they've been splitting up. Some of the members of the pride have new cubs, and we have yet to witness their introduction into the larger portion of the pride. Now, normally this part of the river would be quite busy with elephant activity. So I think I am gonna continue, see if we might pick up on any signs of elephants in this particular section.
It is beautiful and sunny here, but there are some clouds, and this lovely elephant, oh, look how wonderful he is, nice big bull, is very attracted to the marulas on the ground there. He has hardly noticed us. He hasn't really cared about us, has he, Mpo? No, he's just picking up his marulas. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishala, with, of course, Mpo on camera. This wonderful day out on Tswalu Game Reserve. The sun is out, nice wispy clouds. And to start off the morning here in the Sabi Sand, this big bull. They can become so obsessed with picking marulas. They really don't pay you any attention. It's already warming up quite a bit from the time we actually got out and ready for drive to now. So it's going to be a scorcher, I think, today. And you can see that this elephant's already got his ears flapping. keep cool. The treehouse dam is also very close by, so I'm hoping that he will go down and have a drink or have a play. That'll be great. Splash about with this elephant. Look at that tail swinging wildly as well. But that's not to keep him cool. That's to keep all the little pests away from his bottom and from the side of his body. There's lots and lots of little insects around at the moment. At the end of the day, or by the end of the day, you end up with a whole host of bites from little things. See how he's still for a little bit? Listening. A glorious morning. Our plan today is to see what the bush has to offer us, because we've been gifted really awesome sightings these last few days. And it's just because we happen to be in the right place at the right time. And just allowing the bush to, or readying ourselves to receive the bush's gifts. And this is our first gift of the day. But I am close to the hyena den, and I would like to pop in there and see those little mischief makers. I love the way he throws the marula into his mouth. Look at that, look at that. Never too late. You'd like to know if older elephant bulls stay away from herds. They will generally stay away from herds, or mostly stay away from herds, except when they are mating or they feel like there is a receptive female in the herd, or they're in must. But if it's just a normal day, no receptive females around, not in must, it is unlikely that they're going to be with the herd. Now, younger males say about 13 to 15, they're now getting pushed out of the herd. You'll see they're like the badly behaved males. I say badly behaved, I mean in the context of what we think is badly behaved. But what's actually happening is they're growing up and they're starting to be a little bit mischievous. You'll find them very loud. They'll come and display to us quite a bit. And by that time, the females and the mothers are pushing them out. And then you'll find those younger males on the periphery of the herd. They may still come in and out of the herd, but as the herd moves, those younger males will be on the periphery. And then slowly that distance increases and increases until they completely left their natal herd. At that point, those males are now in their mid to late teens may seek out older males to hang out with and learn from and accompany. And in those groups, they will play fight, they will assert dominance over each other, and they'll learn all those things that are required for them to face other males for mating rights in the future. So for this big male to be on his own, just enjoying the morning in the marulas, is absolutely normal. I love it when they get so absorbed in the marula eating. Noelle, you'd like to know, how do elephants know when marula season begins and ends? They don't necessarily know that. So in the same way as you may not particularly know when apple season starts and ends, but the availability of apples in the supermarket lets you know that, oh, they're out and about, and then the next time you go to the supermarket, you're looking for the apples. And then when you realize that apples aren't around anymore, you stop looking for them. So it's not as if they know in terms of time when marula season starts and ends. They only know that as a result of the presence of marulas. But not just by sight, also by smell, because they use pre-digestive cues a lot. And that's just by using their trunk to smell. So if they go to a marula and it has that fruity smell, whatever smell it may be, that we can't smell but they can, then they'll realize that maybe marulas are coming soon. Or maybe they'll see them on the floor. So they don't particularly know, oh, it's this time of the year, so some marulas are going to come around. It may be possible that they expect them when it comes to a certain temperature in the year, and when there's an increase in moisture. It could indicate to them, oh, maybe marulas will be coming soon, but that's not a conscious thought. It's just something they may check on. Anyway, let me send you over to Tristan, and I'm going to bumble down to Treehouse Dam before I get to the den.
Well, while Trish goes to Treehouse Dam, we came towards Sydney's Dam, and you'll see just emerging from behind that tree now is a leopard. I haven't seen who it is. I'm pretty sure it's Cara, given that we're not far from where she had that steenbok in the tree. So I'm just going to try and see if we can reposition and get a better view. But in the meantime, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got David this morning. Welcome aboard, David.
Thank you.
And so it's a perfect way to start. We went towards the tree. The carcass was still there, but no sign of herself. And I thought maybe she was lying in the long grass, and we came around and turned a corner, and there she was kind of walking along. I think it's her. I mean, I haven't even actually double-checked, but I would imagine where we are, it must be. Yeah, it's definitely her. See her scent marking on that particular tree. A lot of you might be asking about the wire that's on that tree as well. That's all just to try and protect the marulas from elephants. This year, the ellies themselves have been quite destructive on marulas and ring barking them, and so they're trying to protect all these nice big trees. And so what they do is they do a loose wire wrap around the tree, and that basically keeps the tree from being damaged. The ellies can't get their tusks in nicely, and they leave it alone. They obviously make it so that it's not too loose that anything can get caught in it, and it works actually pretty well. But you see, she's scent marking, which is interesting. She obviously feels like this is her territory. She doesn't want anybody else to come into this area. So lots of little scent marking on marula trees. I wonder where she went, though, because it's not like she needed to go anywhere to get water. There's water absolutely everywhere. Maybe she just went for a little walkabout to see what's around and to continue marking. I'm going to just reverse back and get us to a point where we'll get her crossing the road, because obviously yesterday we were in this area and there was very, 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 very wet, so off-roading is no-go in this section. We had to pull out 2 different cars last night with her. So we're not going to be following her back to the carcass, unfortunately, but if we just come into where she is now and watch her cross the road, and then hopefully get her going up towards the carcass and maybe up into the tree again. It's quite a beautiful spot that we've got her, because we've got this nice long grass, and it's kind of an area that you don't normally associate with the leopard when you get these open sort of plains like you see there. Generally, leopards are more thicket animals, so always nice when you get them kind of out in the open and in the open grassland. The other thing that there is here that might be of interest is there, right near her kill, or the tree where her kill is a lone young male impala by himself. It's only about a year old, that impala. It's from previous lambs, not this year. So I wonder if she might hunt that. We know yesterday there was that carcass from an impala under a bush, and I'm pretty sure it was from her. Most of the time when leopards kill something, they put them under the bushes if they can't get them up into a tree. So I think she was successful and managed to take 2 kills yesterday. I don't think it was just the one. I think those hyenas grabbed themselves her other meal, which is a shame. But at the same time, a fully grown male impala for her to hoist at her size would be very, very difficult. She needs to grow a little bit and get a little stronger before she's going to be hoisting big carcasses like that. What a beautiful start to the day, though. See how she's just kind of looking around and watching. I wonder if this is how much time she's been spending here, or if this is fairly new to her. Yes, Kara is now almost 2 years old. I'm just trying to remember. She was a little cub when I was in Serengeti. That's 2019. So yeah, she'll be about 2 years now, which is about right for most of these distributing young cats. I was actually having conversations with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about how many of leopards are in this sort of 1 to 3 year old range, which is all kind of leopards trying to forge territories. And it's going to mean that we're going to get an influx of younger cats, and we've seen it. We've seen obviously Inzutini Kara, we've got Marips, we've got Kuchava's little one, Sibui's 2 in Langa and Shasha. There's going to be very high possibility of the likes of this Shimungwe male, which is the one that comes out of Londolozi. There's Tavan Gumi that's apparently from Singita, has moved a little bit further to the north. So he might make an appearance here. So there's a lot of young cats that are in this section. And when they reach that sort of 2-year-old mark, it's when they start trying to forge their own territories. We watched it with Tlalamba previously, and now we're seeing it with this next kind of generation. And it bodes really well, because what that means is we're going to have a number of younger, fitter cats in the area, which we'll be able to watch as they start to grow and start to become adults. I think she's going to go down and have a drink here on the edge of the dam, by the looks of things. With Kara, the important thing with her is not to... I mean, last night was very relaxed with us as we were trying to get people unstuck, but she can be a little bit twitchy when you first find her, so that's why I'm not going close to her. I'm just letting her kind of walk along. We've got a beautiful view of her as it is, and so there really is no need for us to go any closer. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? I think it's very pretty. Where are you off to, though? Look at that tail twitching. So you can hear the anti-poaching unit that's talking. Their accommodation's not far from here. Just going to go scent mark that marula. Yeah, she's just rubbing it. You can hear the monkey's alarm calling now. And that's because those monkeys would have probably spotted that little white tip to the tail. And she's going to mark. And then she's going to start moving towards the kill, I would imagine. I just need to get hold of Rex, and who's going to be joining me, just to tell him where exactly I am. Rex, come in. There we go. She's going to go back towards the... Yeah, Rex, she's at this marula, but she's now mobile towards the kill, so if I go Jumbo. So yeah, she's now going to come back past us on the right-hand side, and then she's going to head back up the slope towards the kill. The kill is behind us at the moment. I'm just going to come back a little bit. There's a beautiful big prominent marula here, and I suspect that she might come and scent mark this marula. It's the kind of most prominent of the ones that are in this area. And so I expect her to kind of keep doing what she's been doing. The pattern so far has her been moving to tree to tree to tree in the search of places to mark. Okay, here she comes now. So she's going to move straight through towards that marula itself, and we'll get her probably just rubbing up on it and then turning with her tail in the air and starting to spray. She'll do that there, sniff, 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 and turn tail, and there we go, little spray, mark of territory, and then off she goes. Now that marula, that one particularly, is going to be a very useful marula to have marked. It's actually on a very big game path that runs from the dam. The hippos that leave the dam going back and forth have created a nice large game path, and as winter comes in to effect, what you're going to find is a number of the cats will use that. So other leopards, and they'll walk along that path, and that tree being situated right next to the path means that she's going to be, well, they will pick up her scent and know that this is her territory. So it's always important that they mark right on the edges of pathways. All right, well, we'll sit here for a little bit. I mean, we obviously can't off-road to the tree itself, but we can get visual of the tree in case she does go up, but we'll just wait and be patient and see if she does ascend towards her kill.
As many of you know by now, one of our beloved leopard characters, Hukumuri, recently passed away. I would like to invite you to join me on Saturday the 20th of February as I take an intimate look into his life and pay tribute to the incredible cat that he was. I'm looking forward to seeing you around the fire at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Converging game path will invariably lead you to a water source, but treat all water as suspect. One of my favorite ways of purifying water is to filter out the particulates. And by just filtering it through your sock, you can clear out most of those. You can put water into a snail shell and you can boil it over a fire or using a chemical like chlorine or colloidal silver.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at Wild Earth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Look at this, the little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
What makes Anbionpinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
We have a gorgeous green pea spider here. How stunning is this creature? Oh, so pretty. Gorgeous. Nope. I'm at the den, everybody. And this green pea spider has decided not to balloon fast, although it was ballooning earlier. Here I have some friends who are being naughty, coming to chew my shoes. We've got Ruben and Intima here. Come on, no. This little one. This is one of our hardest ones. So normally when they come and put their faces here, they just kind of bang your feet and then they get a bit of a shock. So I did this one and I just kind of get the side eye. Like, I'm a little scared, but I'm actually not that scared of you. I know that you are big and strong, but we can't have you too familiar with us, can we? No. Okay. So we have all cubbies out except for Intima's little one. And with both Ribbon and Intima here. Look at that. Oh, what a difficult life I have to fight off hyena cubs. Corky's little girl is here now. She's a little bit scared, more scared. Nope, 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 nope. Everyone's very excited to see the hyenas. I am too. It's like a whole family reunion. Last couple times we've been here, we've just seen the adults last time, and then just the cubs with a drive-by the previous time. So it's lovely to see everybody out and about. Beautiful morning, curious. Hey. And actually smelling not unpleasant. I think that's a plus. There you see Ribbon with her two that are suckling. Rosemary, you say those hyena faces will melt any heart? Absolutely, they melted my heart. But to be honest, I didn't really have an opinion about hyenas before I started working here, in the sense that I knew them, I liked them, but I didn't really have an opinion about them. And then I came here and then everything was just melted. My heart, my face, my brain, everything just melted when I saw them. I can hear tinkering under my vehicle. Hey, I'm gonna move a little bit further back. Because remember last time I was saying to you guys, I thought they were growing up a little bit and becoming a little bit more mature. And stopped biting things. But apparently I spoke too soon. Watch the scattering. There's going to be a scattering now. There goes one. I just wanted to move a little bit further back to hopefully deter them. And a little bit on the grass so it's not so easily accessible. How's it, Impo? Good. Here we go. Stuck in bed. You'd like to know how long will they nurse for? A really extended period of time, generally around 15 to 18 months. So they can be nursing for a year and a half. That's because it takes a long time for all those important characteristics that make them the predators that they are to develop. And that includes a heavy skull, strong jaw, and a lot of well-developed muscles around the jaw too that help them to maintain that strong bite force. They are ridiculously cute. Now they also have some of the most protein-rich milk with a high fat content too. And it's all very important for the cub's development. In terms of the predators that we have around here, they really are quite unique in the way that their body develops and the things that they have got to grow and make strong, as well as their intelligence and building social intelligence so that they can exist in this openly competitive society that they live in. All that takes time and patience. And I think a lot of credit has to be given to them in that sense, because the amount of effort it takes to raise young is extensive in the hyena community. And Tima has now gotten up and walked off. I suspect she'll just go and sit down somewhere far away. She generally does that. Look at the heads of Ribbon's two boys against each other like that. So sweet. If ever there was a family photo, that is it. I'm just pulling up my binos if you hear that strange sound. It's such a pleasant sight to see the matriarch with all the cubs around her too. Apart from Intima's little one. But that little cub is still quite tiny, and you'll find that those tiniest ones, unless of course you're Corky's cub and is very brave, they'll stay inside the den for quite some time, even if their mother is out. And they'll hardly come out if their mother is not. Except, of course, if you're Corky's cub. Virgil, you'd like to know if mothers will bring back prey or bits of meat to the den. It doesn't happen often. Unless it is the matriarch or high-ranking individual. So you saw the last time we had the adults and the cubs around, Hart brought through an impala leg. And she's quite a high-ranking individual. She's probably second highest-ranking individual. But the risk, and that was actually a perfect example, the risk is that if you are not the matriarch and you are bringing meat over to the den, a higher-ranking individual like the matriarch could take it, and then it's useless because you may have brought it for yourself or for the cub, and now it's been taken. And if you recall that sighting, what had happened is Hart brought it through. She gave it to one of her cubs. Her cubs played and fought over it amongst themselves. Ribbon's cubs also jumped in. All of them were having a huge squeal about it. And then Intima came and took the leg, and it was hers, and nobody even blinked an eyelid. Nobody challenged her for it. And that's because Intima is Ribbon's daughter, so she's a very high-ranking individual. She would actually be the second highest-ranking individual from the adults. I often forget about her as an adult. I still think of her as a sub-adult or a cub. Now she's got a little one of her own. So the matriarch may bring meat back to the den, but that's because she can be quite sure that nobody else is going to challenge her for it. Unless she happens to bring it back at the exact moment when the coup has started to take her down. Good morning, Ribbon. You're looking very peaceful with your two boys. I'm glad to say that the rest of the cubs are over my shoes now. Or maybe I spoke too soon. Stuck in bed, you'd like to know if they've been into camp. Hard to tell. I suspect that Ribbon's boys have. The other ones, no. I haven't seen tracks small enough for the others, but I've seen tracks, little tracks with massive tracks, and those big tracks tend to be Ribbons. And they weren't very tiny tracks. So I suspect that these two boys have been into camp. I've also heard small hyena whoops around camp, but I don't think the others have. In fact, I haven't seen Swazi and Ndebele around camp since I've been back. And the last time I was here, they had no awareness of personal space. Actually came into my room while Swazi did. But I think the other guys just staying at the other part of the camp, not far up, just in the other part, have seen the hyenas come through. And Paul, have you seen the hyenas in the night? Okay, and Paul says he's been seeing the hyenas. So they just haven't been coming down to my room. Hello, little Navela. I really, really like that name. Very pretty name. Almost still baby-like in the way she walks. Very, very peaceful. I'm just enjoying myself. I hope that you are too. Here's Corky's girl came back. Leopard lover, that is an interesting question. You'd like to know if spotted hyenas become physically different depending on the environment. With all animals of the same species that are in different environments, there are subtle differences. Like impalas here versus impalas in the Mara, where the horns of the impalas in the Mara are just a little bit different. And that's a result of, like you said, of the environment, of the resources, and slight changes that may happen genetically. We call those changes epigenetic changes. So they're things that can be influenced by the environment and then be expressed. Now, with spotted hyenas, I don't know of anything specifically. I do know that the hyenas up in the Mara tend to be fluffier, a little fluffier than the ones down here. And that's a result of little changes that give them an advantage in that environment, but not enough for the changes to actually be completely genetic and to say that it's a different species or even a subspecies. These are minute changes that happen just to benefit that species in a very subtle way in that new environment, or not even new environment, but that particular environment which they've existed for a long time, that may be very different to, say, the Kalahari. What would be quite interesting is in Tswalu, they've recently introduced spotted hyenas, and I'm sure Deirdre, Yuan can tell you a lot more about that. And when I was there recently, Deirdre was telling me that they had cubs. But what would be very, very interesting is to see what types of differences there are between the hyenas that are now in Tswalu, in the Kalahari, versus the same exact species spotted hyenas up in the Mara. That would be really, really interesting. But in order to conduct that kind of study, you'd need quite a lot of resources. Because you'd want to look at all sorts of different genetic markers in order to see what kind of epigenetic changes are happening. But that's a really, really interesting question. There definitely are. And sometimes it's not something we can see. So imagine all the subtle changes that are between different environments that are happening within them that we just have no idea about. But we can if we just do the research. Somebody is playing with a stick out on the side. Oh no, now you've left your stick. She was looking very cute. Very, very cute. She looks like she's milling about, hoping somebody would play with her. That's a good stick. Oh yeah. She reminds me of Corky's girl with this kind of behavior. She used to always be so full of energy and courage and independence. She'd be, and she still is, so able to occupy herself with little things, keep so busy. And June's girl here, she also has that same kind of characteristic. These are all vital things right here. She's learning about the dimensions of herself and her mouth and what her jaw can do, what her teeth can do. Whether she can bite from the front or bite from the side. She's learning all those things. All that information is getting stored in her brain and creating this picture where she knows her own capability. It's sort of similar to, I often get asked, how do we manage to spot this leopard in a tree or see that there's a raptor sitting in a tree? And yeah, it takes some practice to be able to spot the animal. But what you don't realize, or what you're not conscious of, is that your entire existence, your brain has constantly been taking in information about textures and shapes. You have seen a tree for as long as you've been alive. And as soon as something is off about the shape of a tree, you can recognize it. You may not be able to recognize that it's a leopard. You may not be able to recognize that that change is important. But, in fact, all that information is there in your brain, and it has been for a long time. So all you have to do is tap into it and figure out, oh, actually, the trunk looks a little funny. Could be a leopard, and then go follow up on it. Brains are amazing, aren't they? Anyway, gonna stick around here for a little long, well, until the adult moves, and I'm gonna send you over to Tswalu Kalahari so they can say good morning.
Morning from Tswalu. What you have in the little frame there is a shaft-tailed wider. They're so difficult to get on TV, but that's his little perching spot. He's trying to find some females. This morning, nice and early, I'm Deirdre. It's a little bit frosty this morning. Winter is coming for sure. On camera with me this morning is Morgan. And our plan so far is to track lions, which we have found signs here at the waterhole. Morgan's going to frame up on some tracks of the lions. At least 3, potentially 4 were lying up here. I think we said these ones would probably be the easiest ones to see. But there are about 3 or 4 lions that have been lying up here at the dam last night. And there's dove activity on top, there's jackal activity on top, so it might take us a little bit of time this morning to track them, but hopefully we'll have an update shortly. So you can actually see that they've just been sleeping here. You can see the sort of movement of the tail. We saw that they went down to drink water, and then they've moved on, heading pretty much in a southerly direction. So you can actually see sort of the lines there of the tail. Nice place to be at the dam. So it will, is our little friend, yes, our shaft-tailed wider is still there, so we can show you now. He's facing towards us. Very pretty little birds. He's on the same tree, Morgan, same place. The little... So they have what's called a leghorn arena. They have one particular area where they go to display, and hopefully with his... oh, he just flew off. So once that little shaft-tailed wider is actually a brood parasite, which is means that the female will lay eggs in somebody else's nest and allow them to raise her chicks, predominantly the indigo birds. They choose one in particular and then lay their eggs in their nest. But those little males will continue to have one spot where they perch, do their display from, and hopefully attract females from there. So let's start on our mission for lions before it starts getting too warm. I don't mind it getting warm, it needs to get warm relatively quickly. So Stacey is asking the question, are lions difficult to track? Well, fortunately they've got a relatively nice size footprint, but it's generally quite soft. So it depends on the substrate that it walks over as to whether it's easy to see or not. So because it's fresh, it's almost like the soil is shining this morning, so we can see just up ahead that they have moved down the road. But when they start going over areas where there's a lot more ground cover, then you're not able to see the full track. You only sort of start to see little sort of maybe a half a toe or the back of the pad. So they can be difficult to track, but it takes a lot of practice, and you can eventually get quite good at it. But the most important point, I think, when you're tracking and trailing lions is to always be aware that you don't want to move too quickly into areas that are too thick, because sometimes you'll end up hearing them growl at you first. And that's how you find them, is that they tell you, hey, I can see you, don't come any closer. It's not often that you find them that they don't know that you're there or aren't aware of your presence. So that's what we'd be heading out for now. There is possibility that they could be moving and hunting now. It's still cool, but within the next hour or two, they're certainly going to find their place to rest up for the day. So you've got to be aware of that type of thing. So knowing now that this was last night, we could still be quite far behind them based on the fact that there's fresh dove tracks on top, which means was early this morning at sunrise. And there was jackal, which would have been from the nighttime. So that's how we age the track. So I do think we're a little bit behind them. But we can see where they go from there, so we'll carry on. We'll carry on down the road and see if we've got an update for you shortly.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees. Oh, that's a dozy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well.
Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam-ops might disagree.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross is trying. The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the social weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Things have quietened down here. Although the position of these two cubs on Ribbon's belly is still too cute. All the other cubs have, there's one milling about. Two have gone into the den, and Tima has left, as you saw earlier. Those are the signs of a winding down den. Anyway, I'm going to stick around, like I said before, and Tristan has something happening, so let's go over to him.
As you can see, a tail just disappearing around the corner is not the tail for Kara. This is the tail for Shadulu, her mum. So we came onto Simambili, and she away. She is heading.
Sorry about that, guys. We're gonna get Tristan back, I am sure. He must be having the time of his life. I'm not sure exactly what I heard the comms were there, but I heard Shadulu, so maybe Shadulu has joined Akara? That would be awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I can remember the first time I saw those two together. It was just magnificent. Kara was a tiny, tiny cub. I don't know how many weeks even, but just a few-week-old cub. It's 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something like that. These guys are like, please, can you talk about us and not the leopards? I often wonder where, like if you have a look just behind Ruben, there's a path. The same path that Ntima took. But somehow when they leave this den area and they walk out using this path, or sometimes a path behind us, or sometimes a path to the east of the termite mound, they seem to completely disappear. And this path here comes out at Treehouse Dam. And no matter how many times I try, if I see them moving out here and then go to Treehouse Dam, just don't find them. That's why we often say that a hyena is probably the most difficult animal to track, because they move very, very erratically, up and down, side to side. They don't particularly use sandy paths. They're not scent marking, but they are anal pasting, but not consistently as they go, unlike the cats. Here we have some mayhem ensuing. And now it's moved away. Danny, you'd like to know if spotted hyenas are listed as an endangered species? They're not. They're the most numerous predator that we have in southern Africa. Sometimes I think that they come towards me with almost the slightest bit of an attitude. It's always such a difficult shot to see them when they come close to the vehicle like this. Hey. But I'll try to move my head away so you can have a good look. Hey, you guys, you smell like wet dog. They do. That's why it's not an unpleasant smell. It's not as if it's an unusual smell. People have smelled wet dog before. You're a wet small dog. Sometimes you see things in their eyes and you just want to take it out. You have something in your eye. Why is it that we can't help but make a baby voice when we see cute things like this? Yes, I'm also not sure. Oh, there we have some practice pasting there. Some PP going on. Well, that's a double win. Practice anal pasting plus find a stick. Suppets. You'd like to know what would happen if this clan encountered another clan, it would be quite a fierce battle, territorial battle. They've been known, I mean, not this clan, but hyena clans, when they clash, it's been known to be quite a violent affair. But generally speaking, the boundaries of a territory are well defined, and they can be quite extensive. A territory can be over 100 kilometers squared and well defined, but they will tend to, a clan will tend to prioritize the center or most used bit of their territory. So if other clan members come in and out at peripheries and there's nobody there to chase them out at the time, it doesn't result in a massive deal where, you know, maybe they go over to that territory and say, hey, you've been in my territory, or anything like that, because they prioritize the center bit. So for our clan, for the Djuma clan at the moment, their priority will be this area that's around the hyena den at the moment, because that's where they're raising their cubs, and that's kind of the hub for the clan at the moment. Now, when the cubs grow up, that hub may expand, and then they'll start to protect maybe a different part of the territory a little more. But those edges, though well defined, are not so rigid that someone just comes in and they're going to get bashed or something like that. But if they have to come, if we get an EP clan member come into this area near Treehouse Dam, Philemon's cut line, Philemon's Dip, Weaver's Nest, this priority area, if you had to come into here, it is likely to encounter lots of problems. But then we know that Gauri cut line, which is maybe 2 kilometers from here, I have seen an EP hyena clan member, or EP clan member. But again, it's not in that hub area, and you're not going to see them with Djuma clan members, unless they're an immigrant male and they're trying to get in here. But if you get one clan and another clan at a boundary clashing, it's violent. It's a very distressing thing. There's also lots of distressing sounds, and all around not a comfortable situation by far. Look at this little one. She is very, very cute. I have not heard any roaring or sawing, whether close by or in the distance, since I've been sitting at the den. That's one of the things I really like about being here. It makes me very excited, because apart from having this awesome sighting of being with them, there's a potential for all these other things if we sit and listen. Look at this one. So much energy. She almost looked like a little honey badger there with a tail up. I have seen honey badgers in this block before, actually. Seas where you'd like to know, will this clan stay together forever? The females are likely to stay together forever, well, for as long as they live. Oof, oof, oof. That looks so painful as he pulled on her. Ooh. Sorry, Sizwe. I just saw that and I got this pain coursed through me as I saw him pull on her nipple. So the female Sizwe will stay within the clan, and you'll have multiple matrolines that make up the Djuma clan, and then the males will disperse. They can break away. You don't have a kind of a breakaway clan, but in order for that to happen, there have to be a lot of females in the clan, and the clan moving, or parts of the clan moving into a different territory. And for example, in the Djuma clan at the moment, there are 3 new females, right? June's little one, Heart's daughter, and Corky's daughter. So that's only 3 extra females that are going to be staying in the clan, and then the males will disperse. So it's not as if they're having this exorbitant amount of females that are constantly being born, but that doesn't mean that can't happen. And if it does happen, then there is a possibility that they could create a separate clan. But remember that the females will stay together and the males will disperse. Although there have been occasions, this is the complete exception, there have been occasions where males will stay in the clan but not able to mate. There's even been a case where a male has been the patriarch, shall we say, of a clan. But that is, the patriarch scenario is a complete exception to the norm. My green pea spider has vanished. It's because I wasn't giving it enough attention. Too many things were happening at that moment. The green pea spider is making me excited. Cubs were making me excited. And when I get too excited, it's crazy. Things are now calm. Except for I see some rustling in the bush. Oh! She comes running. Shame. This is June's little one. Keeps moving about all over the place. She's a bit out of sight at the moment. Trying to entertain herself. Everything must be so tasty and smelly and different textures. So many things to learn in the big wide world. There she comes. Cutie, cutie. Well, I'm going to now send you over to Deirdre once we see this cute face. Nope, not even going to see the cute face. But I'll send you over to Deirdre. She's on the search for her lions.
So we are back at Tswalu, and we are still hot on the heels of these lions. Well, probably more cold on the heels of the lions. I've started to see quite a lot of rodent activity on some of the ones after we left the dam. So definitely not the freshest. Our luck is that they have decided to use the road as their trail, so they are pretty much just, the tracks are moving straight down the road. And we have also found another spot where they lay down as well for another short time frame on the road. So we are just driving on the road. I'm hoping that they've decided to continue to lie on the road. Normally the sand is quite nice when the sun is out and warms up a bit. Then they just like to lie out in the sun. It doesn't appear as if they've done too much hunting. They've just been walking straight down the road. The odd one has gone off and then it comes back on. So sort of maybe a try and an attempt, but nothing at this stage. The tracks look pretty consistently just walking down the road. So we are still trying to catch them. But don't just look at the scenery. It's just absolutely stunning scenery for the morning. At least the sun's coming out now. I feel I can take my gloves off. It's definitely heading into our little bit of a chillier time frame. And what these lions do like to do is they do like to go up to the top of one of the dunes. Often that's a little bit warmer in the mornings. Lisa's asking the question, what is the lion population like on Tswalu? Well, we've got at least 2 prides with lots of cubs at this stage. So quite a healthy population of lions. This one pride has got anywhere between 9 and 12 cubs literally within the last 6 months. So they have expanded the population quite a lot over the last sort of 6 to 9 months. I don't see any tracks of any of the cubs with these, so it looks like it might be some young lionesses and not necessarily adult females with cubs, but you never know. We shall follow the tracks and see what comes up on the other end. We've just got to watch out for the little grass birds because there's lots of little fawn-coloured larks that land on the road just in front of us. Then they fly a short distance and land again, and fly a short distance and land again, plus all the sand grass. And with this grass cover being so high, it's actually quite difficult to see them all. But the lions are still going down the right-hand side of the road. So Morgan and I are keeping an eye out. But they have moved probably about a good 2 kilometers from where we were at the dam this morning already. So they've got their nightly exercise. So we just keep going. They'll be looking for animals to hunt in these areas like Eland, Gemsbok. So Mpo is asking the question, what information can we gather from the tracks? Well, like we had earlier, you can gather, we just found another sleeping spot here that we've just driven over. So you can see where they've laid down. And then based on the other tracks on top of those tracks, you can age a track. You can tell with lions, male and female, what the difference is between them by looking at the size of the track, as well as certain features on the track will tell you whether it's a male or a female. And then also you can tell based on how they're walking, what speed they are walking at. So these ones are just a walking pace. So their back foot is almost just next to their front foot. But if a lion is walking and moving quite quickly, then often their front foot, or their back foot sits almost in front of their front foot, and the stride is a lot longer. And then you can see that. If you see sort of a cross, a pattern that crosses where the back right is near the front left, you can almost see that they've been trotting. You can also see whether the lion is actually looking left or right when it's walking, and it does sound a bit strange, but as they alter their shoulder position, so that changes in the trail, and you can actually then see that adjustment as to whether they're looking there. We're going to send you a quick link across to Tristan. He's got something.
Quickly. All right, well, let's try this again. See if we can keep her on camera for a little bit. But Shadulu is up and about and moving. She's not too far from Djuma now. She's walked a long way. But unfortunately, she's now heading off of the road and away from where we can follow her. It's typical. We've had her on the road for quite a while now. But as soon as we actually get decent sort of area, she then cuts off. You can hear impalas shouting at her. She was looking at a few impalas, but has decided better to move on. And the tail up like that was just indicating that she's not interested in hunting them. The thing is, though, is the way that she's moving, maybe, just maybe, she's going to head towards where we can actually view her on Djuma itself. It's going to take a bit of time, and us being
As many of you know by now, one of our beloved leopard characters, Hukumuri, recently passed away. I would like to invite you to join me on Saturday the 20th of February as I take an intimate look into his life and pay tribute to the incredible cat that he was. I'm looking forward to seeing you around the fire at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time. Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Look what we got! We finally found them. They're literally at the next waterhole. So they've walked the whole night, they're thirsty, and they've come down to another one of the waterholes, and Mum have found all the cubs. So we were only tracking adult lionesses, and that little sub-adult there, but not the really, really small cubs. So they must have stashed them overnight while they'd gone hunting, and they've now reunited with everybody, and now it's play and sports. But, yeah, now's a good opportunity for us to count all the cubs to see if there's 9 or 12. Just too cute. So those older cubs would be at least 9 months old, and then some of those really, really small ones sort of about 3 months old. We'll adjust position in a second. I just want to see who's where. So there's at least 2 adult lionesses here. Lots of fun and games. The younger cubs are always the slightly older cubs' plaything. They often find themselves being bullied by the slightly bigger cubs. They'll come. I'm just gonna. It's a little bit thick there. Let's see what type of view we can get you. I think we'll go. I think they're coming back out onto the road. So just give me a second. We just got to go round and on the outside. I think they're coming back onto the road. Yeah. Just hang on there, Morgan. They look like they finished drinking and now it's playtime. So we'll just head around and see if we can get you another view in the nice sunlight. Oh, they're in front of us through the muddy patch. Yeah, they're going to come out on the road in front of us. Here they all go, so we'll see. Here comes the first one. I'm just going to stop for you here, because then we'll get them all. I'm just trying to give Morgan the best view of the camera. And we just patiently wait, and we start counting them. So 2 adult lionesses, 2 different age cubs there. This is the greeting, the licking, they're busy talking to each other. They're just obviously checking that all the cubs have left the water and come with them. There were definitely more than just those 3. So those a little bit bigger, probably about 4 months old at least, and then the next one's up at least about 6 months. And I just said earlier that the bigger ones are the bullies, but that looks like it was the other way around there. Annette is saying, so incredibly cute. I agree, they're just busy waiting. There's another 1 or 2 coming. I'm going to just alter the position now so we can get, there's a few more still coming out on the trail from the waterhole. But if they settle there, fortunately they're very, very used to the vehicles. So one's going to get pounced on shortly. There we go. Oh, there we go. It says hello to Mum. So there's another 2 cubs on the left. So there's 5 cubs in total so far. Oh, look like they've eaten something. That's a little tubby belly if you ever saw one. And that's why you see they're walking on the trails at the moment. Look how wet that cub is. That's just walking through the dewy grass. So they certainly would have been complaining, trying to follow their mothers through wet grass. But you can just see why they're choosing to walk straight down the road at the moment. There's just the 2 lionesses, so it's probably just the 2 sets of cubs. And there's another 2 lionesses in this pride as well that have cubs that are slightly younger than these. They seen or smelt something in the bush. They're all staring into a thicket. I'm just going to push forward a little bit. And you can see, if we can see what they're looking at. They've all got their heads stuck in one little bush there. So they could have smelled something. There could have been something that's scent marked there. A male lion maybe urinating, or even a leopard or some other predator that's scent marked there, and they're all interested in that smell. Todd is asking the question, when will the cubs start hunting? So this play that we've been seeing with them is almost the start of that process of learning to sort of catch and play with each other. But physically participating in the hunt is generally when they're about 11, 12 months old. Then the mother will sort of give them something that's sort of half been throttled and maybe still got some life in it. And then for the cubs, they'll try and they learn. They're not necessarily the best at dispatching it around the neck in the very beginning. So they do have to learn, but once they start getting that, they're pretty good at it. And then from sort of 11 to 16 months, they're learning with the lionesses how to hunt, and often they're so impatient that they actually mess up quite a lot of hunts because they just can't wait, and they go too soon, and the animal runs away, and then the lionesses lose that chance of a hunt. So about 11 months, they'll start hunting. Isn't that beautiful? I did say I hope that we get them in the nice morning light, but that is good. She's contact calling. The other adult female has just started to contact call. She says, which could be other lionesses to try and contact the other lionesses with the rest of the cubs or the rest of her pride. Lots of little mouths to feed here. So we've got four cubs of a young, well, 3 and 3, pretty much. That's what it seems like each one of our lionesses likes to have, is 3 cubs at this stage. So their litters would average anywhere between 1 and 4, but sometimes very young, inexperienced mothers, first-time mothers, maybe only successfully 2, and as they get more and more experience, then raising more cubs is potentially more... is easier for them, but it also depends on the success of the pride from a hunting perspective as to whether they find enough food to feed all of them. They seem to be digging up something, so... Izzy is asking the question, may they cross prides with others in the region or other lion prides in the region? Yes, they can. What I've tend to find over time is that when they do have cubs, they tend to stay in the central part of their territory, so they try not to be on the outskirts of their territory, and they tend to stick in the middle of their territory and not be on the outskirts. And the same with sort of the neighboring pride. If the neighboring pride has got cubs, they do the same, so then there's often very little overlap. And a lot of the time when you've got lots of young cubs in the pride, when they're first coming out, sort of in that 6 weeks to 3 months, you do have that the male lions tend to be more present in that time, so there's extra defense in the pride. But there is always the possibility that they could encounter another pride, and then the lionesses would try and get the cubs away by sort of making certain sounds that the cubs know that they must run, and then they would stand and defend if there were others from another pride that were attacking them. Oh, we just had some discipline going on there. They've been digging here at this bush, so I don't know if they've got something that they can smell, and the little cub got in the way and got clobbered on the head. We've got one little guy that wants to come say hello. Oh, that's what a little hug from a lion cub's like. So we're going to sit with him a little bit more, and we're going to send you across now to Tristan.
Well, while Deidre stays with the lions, we're with Tswalu. We're hopefully going to get this right now and not have to worry too much about signal. You can see she's just kind of walking past the car at the moment. There's two vehicles that are kind of in front of us, and she's making me laugh because she's trying not to get her paws wet, which is ridiculous because her paws are already wet. If you look how much fur is kind of damp around her legs. And oh my god. It's ridiculous. And she's literally walked within about 10 centimeters of my foot, and has now stopped behind us. She's so epic, this cat. I know David absolutely loves spending time with her, so he's happy when we have her around, but she really is such a beautiful little cat, and she, I mean, little is probably not the best word for her because she's actually not little. She's a large individual. You don't kind of realize it until you see her in comparison to the other cats. I mean, obviously we saw Kara this morning already, and she's a lot larger than Kara, as well as even Kalamba the other night. Kalamba's not a small cat, but she certainly isn't as big as Tswalu is. I'm glad that she's back on the road. She did a brief little tour of the bush where it was, we couldn't see her and we thought we had maybe lost her and that she'd gone to sleep, and then she just kind of popped back out again on the road itself. So I'm lucky that she did, otherwise it would have been quite tricky to sort of relocate her. And this area here is very, very wet and the grass is long, so we're not going to be doing much off-roading around these sections for still, I think, a couple weeks at least, maybe even months if we get more rain. We'll pull over here. When we're in sightings like this, it's a case of just allowing everybody to get a chance. So often we'll just pull over and let the car kind of come past us so that they can get a view of the cat as well. It's just the kind of common decency is to let everyone have a chance to view her, and especially in conditions like we've got at the moment, you know, our sightings in terms of duration have dramatically reduced because of the inability to drive certain roads and off-road. It means that we can't follow our cats for nearly as long as we normally do, which is both a good and a bad thing. I think in a way it's nice that the cats can have their alone time at the moment. So if they don't want to be seen, they can just move off into the thickets and they know that we won't be able to go where they go. Whereas, you know, if they're happy just to be on the road and being followed, then that's also cool and we get a chance to kind of see them. At the same time, they get a little bit of a break from cars at times. So it's one of those things. It's just a good kind of things to remember, that it's to enjoy when you do get time with them rather than to worry too much about not being able to find them. Morgan, who's 7 years old. So, Morgan, why do leopards climb trees? If they're adult leopards, there's a very good reason for climbing trees. One is to get out of this long, wet grass. You can imagine in this grass, it's damp, it's uncomfortable. Don't know, Morgan, if you've ever played in the wet grass, after a while it starts to get cold and it's not so pleasant anymore. And so that's one reason, is they get out of it because of that. But the biggest reason is for safety. So it's basically like, for them, going up a tree is like going into your house and locking your door. They know that it's very difficult for other predators to climb like they can. The way that their body is built and the way that they are designed means that they can get into higher parts of the tree than lions, and obviously hyenas don't climb trees, so they don't have to worry about them there. So that's why you find leopards climbing. It's also a place where they can take their food so that they don't have to have any competition for eating. They can put their food up there, and it means that they don't have to worry about hyenas and lions and wild dogs and things coming and trying to steal food from them. Yesterday evening we had a leopard called Kara, who we saw earlier this morning too, and she had 2 kills, or we think she had a second kill, but there was an impala that was close by to her tree, and probably because that impala was too big, she couldn't actually hoist it, and that meant that she unfortunately lost it to hyenas. So trees become a good place for them to take their food up, and then they can sit up there and rest. And it's also a great place to be able to spot things from. When the grass is this long, because of their height, they can't always see over the grass, but when it's I'm just trying to see where she is. I can just see a tail flicking in front of me here. But when it's up in the tree, she's got a lot more of a chance of being able to see her prey animals or see any predators that potentially are coming her way. Still doing a lot of scent marking. I'm pretty sure she's going to cross onto Djuma shortly. We're not far at all now. We're probably within about 100 meters from the boundary. There's a big pan that's here that she might stop at. It's starting to get a little bit warm, so maybe she'll find some shade and just lie down there and take it easy. But we'll see. We'll kind of just follow her and see where she does. The problem is if she does go into Djuma, often what she does from here is just cut straight across, and we won't be able to follow her across there. That area of Djuma is still very, very wet, and we're only going to get ourselves stuck. All right, let's follow her a little bit and just see if we can get her going towards the pan. She already drank water, so I don't think she's going to stop to drink at this pan. She drank on the road just now. But you never know. Sometimes when they're striding around like a scent marking a lot, they drink multiple times through the morning. But I don't think we're going to see her too perturbed about drinks. I think she's going to carry on her little territorial patrol straight towards Djuma. And I'm going to pull over now for this other car because they can't follow her like we can. We have a much better ability to, well, we can traverse Djuma and they can't. So what I'm going to do is let them just take the lead for a little bit. Like I say, you know, we can keep going with her, whereas they might not be able to. All right, we'll follow her for as long as we can. Hopefully she'll continue to make her way towards Djuma.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from South Africa and I'm the incredibly lucky winner of the Tswalu competition. Tswalu has so much to offer, but we're really looking forward to the game viewing options, as going out with a personal guide who has so much knowledge will just be exceptional. Motsi Lodge looks absolutely amazing and we're so looking forward to spending time there. It really is out of this world. I only registered as an explorer towards the end of January, so when the email arrived stating that I was the winner, it took me totally by surprise. I'd just like to thank Wild Earth and Tswalu for this most incredible prize. It really is a dream come true.
Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
So we're having lots of conversation here at the moment. The cubs are moaning, the mothers are growling, so there's lots of complaints being issued from the Little Peanut Gallery. There's something that they want. So while we were off air, that one was digging so much he practically covered the one cub in soil. The soil was just flying out and the cub was just standing there, and it's turned into a nice sandy cub now. So while we've been looking, of the 3 older cubs and 3 younger cubs, I've managed to sex that there's 2 females of the younger cubs and 2 males of the older cubs, and now they've moved around, so now I don't know which ones. I've checked. So we'll have to attempt again. At least we know we've got 2 big boys and 2 little girls, and then the other 2 at this stage are unknown. But you have to do the exercise all over again because I don't know which ones I checked. So if you have young male lions that grow up in a pride together, in this situation, for argument's sake, if all 3 of the bigger cubs would be boys or males, they'd tend to move off as a coalition. If there are any other males within the group with all the other lionesses and their cubs, even if there's a 6-9 month age gap between them, they'll also all tend to move off together as a coalition. And that's how you land up some areas with coalitions 5, 6 to even 7 male lions strong. And they would stay together till they're about, well, they'd stay together for the whole life, but moving on when they're about 3, sort of 2.5, 3, depending on the pressure from the territorial males. Sometimes I've been in reserves where the male lions only leave at like 4.5, but that just depends on the situation at the time. Isn't that just beautiful, that face? You can see that they haven't been squabbling at too many carcasses, even though as a pride gets larger and larger, so you start seeing scars even on the noses of some of the cubs. And that shows you that there's lots of competition at food. So when they do start merging together as a full pride, that one, he just did a flying jump and he fell off the mother's back. She just sort of knocked him over. So there you can see that this is the one that got covered in sand. You can just see the sand all over the front of the leg. Really, really curious, this little girl. She certainly is showing interest. Maybe in you, Morgan. She certainly keeps coming closer and closer to see what we're all about. I don't think she quite knows that she's on live TV. But ever curious at this nature. This is when they're learning. Most of their learning happens now. You know, they sort of play with sticks, chase each other. After they've eaten, they generally do have a lot more energy to play. So there's another one that's actually even a little bit closer. Mum's getting in some good nap time. Oh, there we go. So we've got the 6 there. That's a male. So now we know 2 little females and 2, and the third one in that litter is a male. So we're still going to stick with them as they play and have some fun, but we're going to send you across to Pinder, who wants to say good morning.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I'm sorry it's taken us so long, but we started off the morning with another bout of rain, so we had to wait under some shelter, but we've come out and we've managed to find this ruminating giraffe. You can just see the mountains behind him, and you'll notice some of those clouds, those rain clouds that have now moved off, and the sun is coming through. It seems like the sun is winning the battle at the moment, because the clouds seem to be clearing up all around us. My name is Grant, and behind the camera we have Simon. And yeah, like I say, it's turning into quite a beautiful day. The clouds are all disappearing, and we are on the search for some more animals this morning. And we've got this big bull giraffe, and he hasn't moved other than his jaw and his tail since we got here. So he's just resting, busy re-chewing the cud. Beautiful condition of that giraffe. And you'll see after he stops chewing, you might see the ball of food go down his throat. And then if you look very carefully, you might see the next ball shoot up his throat and back into his mouth. Some lovely birds flying around in this area as well. We've seen some rollers, seen some wax bills. There's a roller that keeps... Oh, he's managed to catch something. It's caught a little insect, the roller, on the dead tree next to the giraffe. Dung beetle, and it's gone. Very peaceful scene this morning, or scenes this morning. There's a nice breeze blowing. And I think this giraffe has managed to find himself a nice spot on this hill, and he's got a nice vantage point all around him to look out for danger. And he's just getting some rest in. Jason, yeah, that is one of the problems with the insectivorous birds. They have to make sure that the insect is dead before they swallow it. Otherwise, it will definitely cause a bit of trouble in their tummy. And so that roller just knocked the beetle against the tree every now and then, well, a couple of times, sorry, not every now and then, a couple of times against the branch that he's perched on, trying to make contact with the head of that little beetle, and in an attempt to kill it, because it is aware of the fact that it needs to kill the beetle before it swallows it. Otherwise it will go into its stomach and wriggle around and probably be quite uncomfortable. And so bigger prey might take a little bit longer, and you might see the roller holding it for quite a while and actually hitting it against that branch a number of times, and then holding it completely still and waiting to see if that insect wriggles around or has any movement or any signs of life, and then it will just keep beating it until it's sure that it's dead, and then only after it's sure that it's dead, it will, or dead enough, then it will swallow it. But yeah, it's lovely to have joined you this morning. Myself and Simon are going to carry on driving around and see what else we can find to show you this morning. And in the meantime, I'm going to send you to Tristan with a leopard.
Well, Grant, we're also happy that you were able to get out and join us this morning. It's always nice when all of our locations are a part of the drive. There's so much diversity across all of them that they've each got their own little special thing that makes them unique and makes them well worth having with us. Anyway, we're with Shaduli. She's now having a little break and resting nicely under a bush. You can see she's starting to groom herself, and this is all preparation now to start to have a good nap. It's gotten a lot warmer, a lot quicker than I thought it would, and so I don't think that we're going to see her kind of moving around too much. She found this perfect little shady spot underneath a gori bush where she can just sit and rest. It's nice and dense and thick in here. No one's really going to bother her or even find her in amongst all of this. And if something like a prey animal does come past, she's got more than enough cover to be able to then grab it should she need to. There's also a nice kind of stand of gories that will be good all day long, so it doesn't matter where the sun moves. She's going to have really decent shade from now until this afternoon. Of course, there is one blade of grass. There always has to be one blade of grass. David, I'm going to move you forward slightly just to get rid of that blade of grass so that you don't have to deal with it in front of her face. I think if we go slightly forward, David will have a much clearer view. Isn't that better? Much better. We don't have that long blade kind of hanging out. But she's just inside Juma now. So she crossed over onto our side, which is nice. I suspect that we're going to find this afternoon or evening she's going to make her way back towards quarantine, very similar to what we saw 2 nights ago when she was fighting with Lalamba. She's going to do a very similar kind of route she normally does. I was interested to see which way she was going to go, and if it hadn't have been for some impalas, it might have been a very interesting morning, because she was moving north up Triple M, which would have taken her to pretty close to where Kara is. Kara, she might have even been able to pick up a scent or have kind of figured out that there was something going on, and maybe she would have walked towards that kill. So I'm intrigued to see from now until this afternoon what's going to happen, whether she's going to go southwards towards quarantine, which is what I expect, or if she's going to somehow catch a scent and start moving northwards towards Sydney's Dam and then to where Kara is. We know that even if she does head up towards Kara, even though she's mom, those two have fought before. Lauren had it with them fighting, and there has been another instance of mom and daughter fighting, and that's commonplace when a daughter leaves their mother or their mother evicts the daughter. Once that bond is separated and mother's no longer caring for daughter, and in this case Shadulu's already had another set of cubs since then that she lost, when you have that situation, they then become competition and no longer offspring. And you'll find that the females, the mothers, can often be quite aggressive to their daughters initially, and then as the mothers get older and the daughters go into the primes of their lives, sometimes the daughters then will bully mom back later. But the actually kind of relationship is completely different as soon as they have separated and the mom has had new cubs. There really is no sort of allegiance or tie to one another. At that point, you're going to find that they're going to end up being pretty sort of grumpy towards each other. All right, our leopard has passed out, and I'm not surprised how far she's walked. So we'll just sit with her for a while. It's a beautiful morning, and, well, there's lots to discuss leopard-wise. In the meantime, let's send you to some playful lines in Tswalu.
So we also have 2 mothers that would also value some sleep time. She's certainly trying, but having 6 cubs between the 2 of them and 3 little naughty ones, and this is another naughty one. They're coming to explore the Land Rover tyres. I see you. You're not allowed to come closer. That one's literally about 2 meters away from the vehicle. Yes, you're not allowed to come closer. They keep getting bitten by ants. There's lots of little ants on the ground. So shaking the paw. Ants bite. But just the absolute curiosity. So one of the older cubs grabbed a stick earlier, and that's become the point of interest for some of them. So they've gone off a little bit further to the right around the bushes after the older one that's trying to play with the stick. You just see sort of movement in the grass. Of course, as soon as somebody's got something, everybody else wants it. So the verdict is still out on the last older cub as to whether it's a male or a female. But the little ones, 2 females, 1 male. But I think there's the one young female, one of the small females is definitely by far the boldest female. She's the one that's come out and getting up to the most mischief, I would say, this morning. So even after a while, the cubs get tired too, until something gets their interest. So they're likely to spend most of the day here now because of the fact that they've eaten. So I didn't get the name there, but the question was, why are the Kalahari lions bigger? It's a couple of reasons. One of them is dealing with the harsher temperatures of the environment and also moving in areas where the sand is much thicker. They've just, it's sort of energy to body surface ratio is one of the reasons, but also the distances and the terrain that they have to travel over is a lot harder. You know, they're moving through thick sand, so their feet almost tend to be bigger. Their whole body, their chest area and their head area is bigger. And Kalahari lions are almost 5% larger than other lions. So being slightly bigger does allow them to be partially more successful. So that one's been begging for milk. So they're at the 3.5 months old. They're already being weaned. So there's still possibly some milk. So you might see an interesting reaction here, is that she might appease the cub for a short time frame, but they've also got sharp teeth. So sometimes that back foot comes out and just sort of over the top of their head and pushes them off. But she may allow them to suckle for a little bit, but possibly not unless if the older cubs come. She definitely won't allow that. Oh, hear all that complaining. So she started to growl, which... Okay, so apparently you can very faintly hear all of that. So that's just that sort of begging for milk. She's actually been quite accommodating, which is quite unusual, but it possibly won't last very long. It's just sort of a little bit of a supplement. Her milk would be at the point where it would be starting to run out, so it is drying up, but sometimes it's a comfort thing, and then she's had enough of the suckling and she'll stand up or she'll roll onto her belly to prevent them from suckling further. But she's certainly one that, the last one that was complaining the most, she sort of rolled over so that it had access to a teat, and now there seems to be no more growling and complaining from the cub that couldn't get in there. But make no mistake, they've got sharp little teeth at this stage already. So that's why I say it generally doesn't tend to last very long. We're going to stick with them a little bit more, but I don't think that they're going to be doing much more than what they have been. We're going to send you across to Ngala.
And we have been watching these hippos also doing pretty much what they're doing now. That's amazing. Now we only see 4, and I think there's at least 7, maybe 8 or 9 here. Now every time you see the hippos go down like that, each individual can keep its breath for a few minutes, 4, maybe up to 6 minutes, so it's difficult often to gauge exactly how many hippos you're looking at and what the makeup of the pod is that you are busy looking at. Now with the recent rains, the water level of this watering hole has risen quite a lot, and I can see the hippos are kind of off towards the side of this watering hole, closer to the bank. And now I'm thinking that with the increase in the water level, they more than likely have to stick more towards the banks. You can see there's another one off to the side there. It looks like only one. And maybe that one might be a young male if I had to take a guess. Oh, Owen just told me there's 3 there. 2. We found not long ago actually on our way here, we had a hippo on its own out of the water, and it was moving into quite a dense area, so unfortunately we couldn't keep up with it. And I was thinking that maybe that hippo might have come from this particular watering hole. Well, this is the only major body of water close to where we had it. And there's a good chance that maybe The big bull hippo in this watering hole made that one not want to come back after the night's feeding. That's a very good question. How can you tell what is a dominant hippo in a pod? I'm not going to lie, it is not an easy task. But if you have the majority of the pod all together, you can usually notice from the biggest hippo that is within the pod is the one that if he moves over towards the others, you'll see some of the younger ones move off and make way. And then also he will display. He'll yawn, showing off his tusks, and do the elaborate marking with the tail. And then we also have some white-faced whistling ducks. There's quite a few. But not too long ago, we didn't see here at all. And it's amazing how the water level has changed the entire system around this area over the last few days and weeks. There's so much more bird life around at the moment, large flocks of birds. I did notice the blacksmith lapwing that we usually see in this particular watering hole is still around. I can't help but wonder, those two, the other two hippos that separated from the pod, whether they might have come in afterwards and maybe they're not part of this pod. Lee, how far will hippos travel at night to feed? They do travel quite a considerable distance. It's difficult to put a specific distance to that because it depends on the hippo, and it also depends on the weather to a great extent, what time of year it is. I think with all the water around at the moment, they're not as much driven by the instinct to get back to a large body of water in the morning. They can pretty much sometimes spend their day out in pools in nearby areas, so that means that they can travel quite a bit. Well, we had tracks of a hippo, which might have even been the same one that we saw earlier, which is the crow flies from here, maybe at least 3 or 4 kilometers. And when we had that tracks, it was still moving away from this particular side of the reserve. So I don't know, it could have traveled quite far, maybe up to 6 kilometers or more. Also so much food around at the moment. There's literally grass everywhere. I have never seen the reserve this green before. That is amazing. When they put their heads down, they disappear completely. You wouldn't even even say on occasions that there are any hippos here, if not for the one or two that still above. I can see it looks like there's a younger hippo within that group, and I know not too long ago we had a tiny hippo here, which was a baby. I think it's been growing quite quickly. But I think while we sit here and hope that something might come down, we are gonna go over to Tristan with his leopard.
I couldn't agree more, Yapi. It is a beautiful time of the year. It's a difficult time of the year from a game viewing point of view, and it's, there's often restrictions and things like that, but it is far more kind of pretty on the eye during the summer than it is in the winter. There's something about the contrasting of all these shades of green with these big blue skies and the clouds that we get. I mean, if you take yesterday's sunset, for example, the colors in that sunset are just phenomenal. You don't really get that a lot in the winter months. It tends to be a lot blander. And I love summer for that reason. Like I say, game viewing becomes tricky, tracking becomes difficult, following animals becomes difficult. Those are all downsides of it, but the actual landscape itself is as good as it will ever be and as pretty as it will ever be. And it's nice just to see the change, and a lot of you that are older viewers that have been watching for a long period of time will have seen these areas when they were at their worst in terms of drought, where there wasn't even a single blade of grass. Where we're sitting right now, I mean, you can see Shadulu's in a little short patch, but there's long grass all around us. And in 2016, this area here was barren. There was not a blade of grass here. I mean, it doesn't look like that could be possible a few years ago, but it was. I mean, you could see as far as you wanted to. This was all just dust. And so the rejuvenation of the landscape since then has been a really epic thing to witness. And so when you see it wet like this and the seep lines flowing and the dams full, it's almost a time to rejoice in many respects. And the animals will do well out of it. So not so much the cats and dogs, they're going to struggle a little bit more. Predators will have a tougher time now because a lot of the prey animals are going to have fed very well. They're far more distributed because of the water availability. And then that means that their condition is really good. They're not having to compete as much. They're not having to almost starve, and water is freely available, and that makes them a lot stronger and therefore harder to catch. The one thing that's in the cat's favor is that this longer grass means that they can stalk a lot closer without being seen. Their ability to get towards wherever the prey animal is that much easier these days. They don't have to compromise in themselves nearly as much as they do in the winter months or in the drier times. By being out in the open here, they can use quite a immense amount of grass to get as close as they need to. Now you'll notice on Shadulu, on her neck, that she's all dirty. It looks like she's got like a kind of muddy neck. That's not actually mud. It's dung from a buffalo that she rolled in a little bit earlier. It's a common thing that you see from leopards. They like to find a little dung patch and then they roll there quite heavily, and often their whole faces, can be covered in it. The thought behind it is, one is that they're leaving their scent behind. So they rub, when they rub like that, the facial glands are leaving scent. But the second thing is that they are getting the scent of that animal all over them. And it's thought that there's an element of masking to it. So it's a kind of masking agent. It reduces their scent and makes it harder for, others to smell them. I'm not 100% sure if that is what happens. Maybe they just kind of enjoy it, but that's the theory behind it, is that is masking their scent when they're walking. making it harder for animals to pick them up on the wind. But she is out cold. Like I said, I'm not surprised she's as sleepy as she is. If I show you how far she walks, you can think about, if some of you will have maps and will know this, but she's walked basically from Simamili Lodge all the way to Djuma. That distance is probably, I would say, about 7 kilometers. And that was in the space of about 2 hours that she managed to do that, an hour and a half that she walked those 7 Ks, which is fast for a leopard. It seemed like she was just on a scent marking mission. She literally just got onto one road and just walked straight east on that road the whole morning, and then sort of cut off a little bit towards the end and has now settled down. So maybe her encounter with Kalamba and all these newer cats that are around in the form of these young males is maybe just driving her to start scent marking a little bit more. We know that she has mated, so it's not a... I suppose she could be attracting a mate again if the mating wasn't successful, but she mated fairly recently. Just after New Year's, she was mating with Tortoise Pan. And so she might also even be starting to be pregnant. We just don't see it yet. That could also be a possibility, which is why she's roaming wide and marking heavily. It's something that you will see from leopards when they are pregnant, is that they start to go on these massive territorial patrols almost daily, and they set up these very strong scent boundaries where they'll urinate everywhere that they can in order to just keep others at bay for a while they are restricted to a certain area when they give birth to cubs. So the intensity of those walks gets more and more as they get closer to giving birth. They start to really kind of set up the boundaries as much as possible. So it could be that she's starting to feel like she needs to do, but I suspect it's more along the lines that there's quite a number of cats around, and she's just making sure that everybody understands that she is dominant in a certain section. If you think about the competition that she's facing at the moment, just where she is right now, to her north is Kara, Luna, and then to her east is Kalamba, Tandi, Sibui, Kuchava, and then, further east of that is Nkanyeni and Monzo. So there's that kind of side, but then on her western side, she's got Inzutini, Tiani, Moya, and last night, a leopard called Shinzele, which is a female. She was seen yesterday on the sort of southern side of Shadulu's territory. So she's absolutely surrounded by females at the moment, and most of the females that I've just named, with the exception of Tandi, are fairly young individuals, in fact very young individuals. They're all kind of first litter of cubs or younger. Bar Sibui, obviously she's on her second at the moment, and Kuchava's had a few litters in her life, but they're all younger cats in their prime, and so she needs to constantly be marking and patrolling in order to stop this influx of females into her territory and her territory size shrinking. Ultimately, for her, at the position of her life at the moment, she doesn't want to end up in a situation where she's being pushed into a very small area. She's still quite young. She's only had one cub, and so she's going to try and keep her area as intact as possible, because that means that she's going to have access to food, water, and den sites, as well as males. So that's why you're going to find Shadulu's going to be very busy all the time. And even if she is pregnant at the moment, the reason I'm pretty sure that she's moving as much as she is more competition-based than pregnancy-based. And that's not to say that she might not be pregnant at all. Within the first 6 weeks of their pregnancy, it's very tricky to tell that they're pregnant, especially if they only have one cub inside. So it's not saying that she is, but it is a possibility too, given that she has mated. All right, well, we could talk leopard dynamics all day, and so I'll sit here with her and just see if she does wake up at some point, but I think she's going to be pretty sleepy for the rest of the morning.
As many of you know by now, one of our beloved leopard characters, Hukumuri, recently passed away. I would like to invite you to join me on Saturday the 20th of February as I take an intimate look into his life and pay tribute to the incredible cat that he was. I'm looking forward to seeing you around the fire at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth Day.
And the poor little boskia tree has become the latest victim. There are three of them that are jumping, tackling, biting the leaves off, and then they jump and they tackle each other. So, fortunately, they haven't chosen a thorn tree. But this is part of play and part of grappling with prey, and you can see the claws are out. This is exactly how they learn. So even though they're still sort of 3 months old and the older one there is 6 months, all of this activity is learning. Whoops! Try again. You can't but not laugh at them playing silly antics this morning. Oh. Oops. I don't think a boskia tree tastes so nice. Definitely not to eat. It's more to tackle. And there's always that when it bounces back. Good, very good practice. Very good practice. Yeah, that's exactly it. He's saying it doesn't taste so nice. It was starting to get a little bit warm in the sun there. It wouldn't surprise me if she moves to the shade as well. Sylvia's asking the question, at what age do lions start mating? So it'll be different for both male and female. A female is probably mature enough at round about 2.5 to successfully fall pregnant, but sometimes it's generally closer to 3.5 years before she has her first litter. And then for a male, they would generally be leaving the pride at sort of about 2.5. And then sort of for the next sort of 3-4 years, till they're around about 5-6, only then are they big enough, their manes are fully grown, and they're potentially then dominant enough to take over a pride of themselves. So for females, it's about anywhere between 2.5 and 3.5, and for adult male lions, it's anywhere beyond sort of 4.5 up to about 6 years of age. It all depends on the conditions and the areas that they live in. What are the pride dynamics in certain closed systems that would also dictate as to whether a younger male would be successful versus an older male. In really, really large open systems where you've got a lot of lions and there's a lot of competition, then the males tend to only get breeding opportunities when they're slightly older. And then for a male, about 6, maybe if he's lucky to hold a pride till he's about 10, but then when they're starting to get 10, generally there's much younger, stronger males that are able to push them out. So that breeding window for males is relatively short, whereas a lioness living anywhere up to about 16, 17 years, when she's 2.5, 3.5 years old, she'll have cubs pretty much on average every 2 years. The other female's going to move into the shade now. She's also getting too hot. So everyone's trying to find that little shady spot and fall over. So you can just see how quickly how camouflage can work for them. Slight dappled shade, and then they suddenly disappear. But when the sun is shining directly on them, nice and easy to see. So really lucky tracking for us this morning. We didn't have to work excessively hard, considering they walked straight down the road. Kyle has asked an interesting question, is do the males stay with the pride? So not all the time. The males on this area have more than one pride that they go and they visit. So once again, that's also almost an area-specific answer, depending on whether it's a closed system or an open system. But the dominant males of the pride at the time will spend time with the females. Very often, if they have got food as well, then they'll spend some more time with them. And when the young cubs are being introduced to the rest of the pride, sometimes the male lions are present. But their job is almost to make sure that they're patrolling territory and making sure that there is an area that is safe for the females to live within, can successfully raise their cubs. So lately, with having a lot of rain, as soon as you have rain, all those fresh scent marks are washed away. Then the male lions have got to go and get busy and start remarking those territorial areas. So we have the male lions we have here move between both prides at this stage. But in other systems, they can either have one pride or 2-3 prides, and then they move between those. And sometimes when they're on their own, they also successfully can sort of catch food for themselves, sometimes chase leopards or food, and then they don't worry about whether the lionesses are nearby or not. They'll just finish that for themselves. They certainly, if a male lion is present in a pride and they're on a carcass or something like that, or they're on a kill, and they're busy foraging, that's a terrible word to use, when they're eating, as lions on a carcass, if there's a male lion present, that also tends to keep greedy hyenas at bay. So it sort of tends to be four hyena will take on a single lioness. But if there's a male lion present, they wouldn't even bother. So sometimes if the males are with them, there's a good chance that they manage to eat their entire kill without having to fend it off from hyenas. Amanda has asked the question, do females have a certain age where they can't breed anymore? If they're in good body condition, even at sort of 15 or 16 years old, they can still produce cubs. Whether they successfully raise their last set of cubs all the way to adulthood is another question, but that would depend on their own success. It starts getting harder and harder. Generally, their teeth are chipped. Some of them are broken. They're not necessarily, they'd be good hunters, but they wouldn't be very good living on their own. And that's the challenge. Once the lioness has chosen a den site and she gives birth to the cubs in a den for about a month, she stays away from the rest of the pride and she hunts. She sort of looks after herself, and then when the cubs are coming out to food, sort of the first 6 weeks, often she's on her own with those cubs. The older the lioness, the harder that would be if she's not necessarily got her full use of her teeth and she still relies on the rest of the pride to feed her. That would be a challenge. So you probably find maybe their last set sort of around 14, 15. But once again, it's also circumstantial as to what's the success of the rest of the pride, how many other lionesses there are in the pride to either help if they have cubs of their own to allosuckle the cubs, so they will share sort of the milk amongst the cubs in an environment, so that could help an older adult female. But yeah, once she starts getting a little bit older, sometimes she starts actually getting left behind. She can't keep up with the pride anymore. So lionesses do tend to die of old age around about 16, 17 years of age. That poor little tree is still getting a bit of a beating. But there's one younger cub and one older cub there, so the older cub was being a little bit of a bully. While these ones are hiding in the shade, we're going to send you across to Tristan with his leopard.
Well, talking about shade, Shadulu is doing the same, and we are being absolutely punished by not being in the shade. It is seriously warm. Out here today, there's no breeze to speak of at all, and so the humidity is rife, and the sun feels like it's got spikes coming off of it. So while she's very comfortable and happy, David and I are getting a 3rd-degree sunburn at this stage, which is fine. It's not the worst thing out here. It's crazy to feel how hot it is actually at this time of the morning. You would expect, for it to kind of only heat up towards midday, but in the summers out here, and much like in Tswalu too, is, when the sun gets up, it immediately starts to roast. And it's going to be a warm day today. I think it's going to be that little heat patch that we're going to have before the rain arrives again. We're not going to get hit much by this storm that's off the Mozambique Channel, but we are going to get a bit of rain from it. It seems like we're going to get a good sort of 30-40 mils during the course of next week, which, after what we've already had, is going to be enough to pretty much send everything running and wet again and roads to be closed. Now, if we get any rain, it's really just causing that much of an issue because of how saturated the ground is. All the drainage lines are still flowing. Normally what we find with the rain is something like the Mulawati, is it flows and within a week it's kind of stopped flowing and there's just little puddles everywhere. But the Mulawati is still flowing pretty strong. Most of the seep lines I've driven through today are still got a fair amount of running water coming out of them. So any rain whatsoever is going to just cause a massive amount of damage once again. Hello, girl. You're awake. So for those of you that... does she have a big cut across her face there? Not a cut, but like a little gash. I wonder if that wasn't with her interaction with Kalamba the other night. You see, it's a long line that comes across. That easily could be a claw that just caught her. It could also be something innocuous, like a little branch. When she's hunting, as she chases something, it can just, a thorn can slice her face a little bit. It's not a deep wound, and it's certainly not going to worry her at all. But one thing I've never noticed with Shidulu, and I've only actually just picked it up now, is how spotty her chin is. She has the spottiest chin I think I've seen on a leopard. I didn't even actually pick it up until right now. You see her lower jaw? Most of the time, chins are white fluff. You don't see much in the way of spots at all, but she's got a very spotty little chin, and you're going to see she's going to eat a little bit of grass. Commonplace for a leopard to do that. They often eat grass just to help with getting the stomach into better condition. Also at this time of the year and in the mornings, you'll often find them kind of mouthing on grass, and what they're actually doing is getting the dew off the grass. They're not actually getting biting the grass itself. So sometimes you'll just see they kind of like run their tongues on the grass and their mouths, and they pick up a huge amount of moisture from it. And in some parts of the world where it's very, very dry, like the desert areas, you'll find that that's how a lot of the animals survive, is off dew rather than actually water holes and pans and pumped water. In some parts of the world there isn't pumped water. Our animals here are very, very, very spoilt in the dry season. They have pumped water pretty easily available and within reaching distance all the time. It's why we have such a high density of impalas and the likes in these areas. Also elephants. It's we see a lot of elephants during the dry season too, and it's because of the sheer amount of water that we have throughout this sort of western part of the Sabi Sands, not the Sabi Sands, but the western part of the Kruger. So even up into the Timbavati and the likes, as most of the lodges will have some sort of a pumped water hole somewhere on their property, which means that animals can stay there all year round. They don't need to move and kind of make use of different areas, which brings about its own ecological conundrums. All right, we'll sit with Shidulu. We'll see if she does kind of put her head up again. Hopefully she will. She has been up and down quite a bit. And so while we do that, let's send you across to Trish, who's bumbling about. That reminds me. So you're back with us. Sometimes these things happen out here. I was just talking about all the rain and things like that, and part of the rain means that we unfortunately do get a few issues. It amazes me all the time that we're able to do what we do from all these wilderness areas. It seems so kind of crazy that we can kind of speak to you guys in real time and you can interact with us. It's a pretty incredible thing in many ways, and the equipment that is used goes under some serious strain. Not many things are designed to be bounced around on dirt roads and put through rain and dust and all the other factors that get heat from the sun. So it's incredible when you see how this equipment actually handles all of this. It's a testament to those to the stuff that our tech team has managed to source to use in order to make this work. It's good though that we're seeing Shidulu a lot more on this western side. We were just chatting about it now. I wonder how often she's sitting like this, and we have absolutely no idea. I mean, she is really not far from the road at the moment, but the chance of finding her here is almost zero from the road. The track, I was looking where she crossed the road, is near invisible, and then from there the grass is so long that you just wouldn't spot her until you were right on top of her. Even if you were hypothetically tracking and you'd got onto the right track, you would have to get within 15 meters of her before you'll spot her. That's how long the grass is from a sort of walking point of view. So at this time of the year, you've got to rely hugely on just being in the right place at the right time. Leopards being on roads, trees, mounds, anywhere where it's a lot easier to spot them. It's certainly not an easy time to find these cats at the moment, and so I'm glad that we are seeing her a lot more. She's been good to us in that she's been on the road both times that we've managed to see her in the last few days. And it's quite typical, well, quite interesting, is because there's a pattern of behavior that's developed from Shidulu. If you rewind a few months ago, before she had her last set of cubs, we went through a period where Shidulu was a very constant part of the Djuma landscape. At one point we were seeing Shidulu, Kalamba and Tandi all kind of in the center parts of Djuma, and they were all kind of competing there, and we were seeing Shidulu almost every second day. She then had cubs and we didn't see much of her, but now that she doesn't have the cubs and she's back to patrolling, the increase in Shidulu sightings seems to be happening once more, which is good. All right, we'll sit with her. In the meantime, off you go back to Deirdre in Tswalu Kalahari.
So Morgan and I, just like Tristan and David, were also cooking in the sun while all the lions managed to sneak off in the thicket. So all of them just decided to lie up in the thicket, but not really great for the camera. They're all gone into their shady spot for the day. So we just moseying on between the dunes to see if we can find anything else. So we'd be looking for red hartebeers, some Gemsbok, maybe eland, out in these areas. Where we were with the lions, we also saw some ostrich tracks as well, so maybe that. But yeah, as it starts to get warmer and warmer, we certainly are looking for more animals in the shade. So just a nice red Kalahari sand. Brad is asking which migrant birds do we have on Tswalu. So sort of off the top of my head, there's quite a few cuckoos. We've got the Jacobin cuckoo and the Dedrick's cuckoo that are here at the moment. We've been seeing an Abdam stork, which is an intra-African non-breeding migrant. And then we do, depending on how much water levels we've got, you get a lot of little waders come in, sort of curlews and whimbrels and some really strange water birds that you wouldn't expect to find in the Kalahari. They come in literally sort of almost on a stopover more than anything else. And then the swallows, some of the swallow species. The barn swallows, they'll start thinking about heading back soon. As soon as you have this increase in or decrease in temperature and the length of day and night starts getting shorter, the length of your daytime starts getting shorter and your morning temperatures are getting cooler, the migratory birds are certainly starting to gather to start heading back north. But the birding in this area, being sort of an arid area, tends to only be about 270 species. So some of them are resident and adapted to living in this environment, and then a small portion of them would be the migrants that come and go. So warblers, they tend to be migrants as well. Oh, sounds like Pinder's got some buffalo for you.
Quite right, Deirdre. There are lots of migratory birds in South Africa at the moment. And there's a European roller flying around this herd of buffalo as well. But just a perfect example of the grass that I was talking about for those of you that were with us yesterday. Look at how long the grass is. These buffaloes are almost covered by the grass. But what's also quite nice is in this herd of buffaloes, I've seen at least 6 very young calves. sort of under the age of a month old. They're still very, very light brown in color. That group right at the back, Simon, you see the furthest ones away from us. You'll see that there's three little calves in amongst that group. And then there's a few more spread out throughout this herd. You can see just there's a dead tree sort of in the middle of your screen, and then to the right there's a big bull that's covered in mud, and standing right in front of him is a tiny little calf. And then in front of that is another calf standing just behind its mom. Really beautiful scene with the long grass and the buffaloes just slowly grazing, moving through. And it looks as though they've already visited water this morning, which is quite normal, quite to be expected of buffaloes, especially in summer. Start to graze just before the sun comes up, find some water. Once it starts warming up, and then graze slowly until they find a nice spot to rest for the day. Matt, there's a herd of buffaloes just to the east of Old Main Gate. So the general direction of these buffaloes is more or less up towards us, slightly at a 45-degree angle to us, just like sort of missing us. And so it does seem as though they're moving up the ridge, but then again some of them are turned and facing to our right. And they're sort of facing in all directions. What you might notice is the grass is moving quite a bit. So there is quite a breeze that's picking up at the moment, which will probably blow for the rest of the day. And what you might not be able to see from the camera angle is just that the landscape there, these buffaloes are in a shallow valley, just trying to get out of the wind. And so down in the dip there, the wind will be a lot less than up on the top. But all the buffaloes' heads are down. They're completely relaxed and just feeding. And we are upwind of them, but I think we're at the moment far enough away that they're not really fazed by us. If we were a little bit closer, we might see a few of the older cows, maybe one or two of the bulls looking up at us, keeping an eye on us. But that's not the case. Quite relaxed. Can you see those two zebras, Simon? If you come down from them, there's a buffalo and her calf is actually suckling. She's drinking milk from behind mom. there's a whole line of buffaloes that are sort of facing in our direction. Slowly feeding up the hill towards us. And what we might start to see in the next few minutes, maybe within the next hour, is these buffaloes starting to look for some shade. And they will more than likely rest in the shade throughout the heat of the day. And then once it starts cooling down into this afternoon, the buffaloes will get up again, move to some water, and graze along the way. So I think we are going to leave these buffaloes to themselves and see what else we can find.
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by. And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
It seems that we just missed out on this little group of elephants having a swim at Buffelshoek Dam. We're quite close to the dam. It's just on the other side of them. But after a good swim, they need a good dust bath so they can get nice and muddy. Listen to them rubbing up against each other. Trap all that moisture between the cracks in their skin so they can keep cooler for longer. It's amazing to watch them actually loosen the soil with their feet and then pick it up with their trunk and toss it on top of them.
Behavior like this tells me it's going to be a hot day. Oh, we now have some elephants behind us, looking at us, wondering how we ended up part of the herd in front of them. We look a little bit funny. We don't have a trunk. Let's see if they can come past. Seems like they've just stopped to eat, though. Oh, we have somebody's on the floor. Somebody's on the floor, everyone. And just see a foot sticking out. Well, you know, if you're an inexperienced elephant, that's the best way to get sand onto you, isn't it? Just fall down into it. Don't complicate things with a trunk. That looks like a good stretch. Just keeping an eye out on the elephants that are approaching us from behind now. No, they're fine. Well, I think this is a great way to end off another spectacular safari with you all. With the biggest mammal we get to see out here in the bush. Biggest mammal on land altogether. The African elephant. I wish we could have arrived just moments earlier. But alas, we'll have to wait for them this afternoon. I still need to see my elephants swimming. I've been visiting the dams and no luck just yet, so I think this afternoon is the time. Find a leopard at the dam and there's some elephants swimming. But we've been so fortunate with sightings that we're a little bit spoiled. So I'm going to take whatever gifts the bush gives us this afternoon. I wish we could say, oh, that elephant is having the time of its life on the ground there. So cute. She's stopping to listen as this other one comes up to me here. Can you hear it eating besides me? There we go. Right there to end off show. Well, thank you all, as always, for joining us and for your questions and your comments. We'll see you this afternoon, and bye-bye for now.